Chapter 692, First Meeting. Bai Li Changqing's words made Gao Changkong unable to help but turn his head and take a closer look at Zhang Yi. He had just returned from outside and did not yet understand the specific details of what had happened, so naturally he had no idea what Zhang Yi had done. However, at the moment, Bai Li Changqing had even said that 80% of the members of the Eclipse Moon War had died at the hands of an outsider from the outer city. This inevitably shocked Gao Changkong greatly. Zhang Yi waved his hand. "Don't exaggerate, I just picked up the slack for 2 of them." Bai Li Changqing sighed. Is that really the case? He knew that even if Shinkai Nado and Shinichiro Akutsu, who Zhang Yi had helped, were in their prime, they would still not be Zhang Yi's match. Gao Changkong laughed. This is no surprise. Our vast land of China is prosperous and teeming with talent. It's not as if only people born in big cities or with good family backgrounds have great abilities. Zhang Yi suddenly remembered that Gao Changkong had also come from an ordinary family. There seemed to be a hint of mutual admiration in his words. The few of them chatted casually, but due to their status as soldiers, Bai Li Changqing and Gao Changkong both held back. Bai Li Changqing did not tell Gao Changkong about the headquarters plan to form the Tengbu squad. Gao Changkong also had great reservations about the mission he was on. As for Zhang Yi, he was not someone who liked to talk too much to strangers, and from beginning to end, he just mumbled a few words in response and didn't say much more. After a while, the car arrived at the operations command center, and Gao Changkong went to see Zhu Zheng. Zhang Yi and Bai Li Changqing were in the lounge downstairs, waiting for him to come out while drinking tea. Gao Changkong didn't stay in Zhu Zheng's office for long. The specific information on the mission had actually been handed over to Zhu Zheng before they even returned to the city. And as a military man, Zhu Zheng didn't like long-winded bureaucratic talk. So after a brief chat about the details of the mission and commending him on his achievements, they got down to discussing Eclipse Moon. Half an hour later, Gao Changkong came to the first floor, beaming, and said to Zhang Yi and Bai Li Changqing, "Okay, the debriefing is over. Let's go have a drink." Zhang Yi was not one to join in the fun. But in this encirclement and suppression of Eclipse Moon, he knew that Gao Changkong's reincarnation squad would definitely be the main force. Drinking and chatting with him might allow him to get some useful information. Even if nothing else came of it, it would never hurt to have a good relationship with a squad leader. So he readily agreed. The 3 of them took Bai Li Changqing's car and arrived at the code bar. Gao Changkong's appearance here immediately caused a sensation in the entire bar. The veterans, the bartender, and the dancers all showed him great enthusiasm. "Hey, Captain Gao, welcome back. You must have completed the mission perfectly again this time, right? After we take care of Shan Nian's business, we'll be counting on you. You must do us Huashu people proud." Gao Zhangkong smiled and nodded to the crowd, before getting into the elevator and heading to the VIP room upstairs amid the cheers of the crowd. This time, even the general manager of the code bar came out in person to tell Gao Zhangkong that his bill would be waived. You have to understand that this was not before the end of the world. Drinks themselves were an expensive luxury that ordinary people could not even dream of. And the cost of a meal at the password bar was always high, with per capita consumption at 20,000 points or more. Not to mention customers of Gao Changkong and Bai Li Changqing's caliber, which could easily start at 6 figures. So at the password bar, free meals were extremely rare. Gao Changkong smiled wryly. "In the past, I rarely received such treatment either." Bai Li Changqing, however, smiled and said, "It's because everyone has high hopes for you." Gao Changkong frowned slightly and let out a light sigh. After all, was it because of the loss of the Divine Squad that everyone was in a panic? The more chaotic the situation, the more people expect a hero to appear. At this time, the people of Blizzard City were uneasy. Gao Langkong returned with a big victory, which immediately made him the hero that everyone expected. After the drinks arrived, the several men pushed cups and exchanged drinks, and with the effect of the alcohol, the conversation slowly opened up. The core of the conversation was actually still about Eclipse Moon. Gao Changkong looked at Zhang Yi with a smile on his face, but there was a meaningful look in his eyes. Zhu Shui has already told me about you. I was also greatly shocked after hearing it. A character like you, if you appeared in Blizzard City, you could definitely become the head of the investigation team, or a branch leader-level figure in the Yan army. Zhang Yi raised his glass towards Gao Changkong. You're too kind. Compared to Captain Gao, I still have a lot to learn. Gao Changkong laughed heartily. You're too modest. The two men clinked glasses across the table, and half a glass of wine went down their throats. Bai Li Changqing looked at Gao Changkong with a smile. What else did Zhu Shui tell you? Is it convenient to talk about it? There's nothing inconvenient about it, Gao Changkong said. For example, the matter of merging the Heavenly Squad and the Black Robe Squad to form the Tengbu Squad. Gao Changkong pointed at Zhang Yi. Zhu Shui told me that he really hopes that you will take on the role of team leader. Zhang Yi shrugged, but I refused. He sighed. I don't mind you laughing at me, but I am just an ordinary warehouse manager in Tianhai City. I don't have leadership skills, and I don't have much drive. So I've never been material for managing people. He spread his hands towards Gao Changkong. Now that you're back, Captain Gao, you will definitely be in charge of this operation. Why don't you just manage the Tengbu Squad as well? Gao Changkong shook his head helplessly. That's impossible. If I bring both the Celestial and the Black Robe under my management, the higher-ups won't be happy to see that. Zhang Yi also realized at this time that the higher-ups could not possibly want their subordinates to have too much power. After all, these were the end times. Order had collapsed, and Blizzard City was barely holding on. It looked powerful, but in reality, this kind of rule was not stable. One careless move could cause collapse. If Gao Changkong really gathered the strength of the other two investigation teams, then in the future, it would be difficult for any force in the entire Blizzard City to contend with them. Zhu Zheng and the others had valid concerns. Bai Li Changqing frowned. But right now, there are not many people in all of Blizzard City who can lead an investigation team. They are all in important positions and cannot leave Blizzard City. If Yudan Gao Changkong looked indifferent, as if he didn't care how the higher-ups would arrange things. Chapter 693, Balance. Gao Changkong, the popular investigation team leader in Blizzard City, had a sunny and easygoing personality. He was elegant and easygoing, and was able to get along with many people. When Zhang Yi talked to him, he felt that this person had an excellent temperament. Gradually, Zhang Yi also began to chat with him in depth about other topics. For example, the missions that the investigation team carries out outside. Captain Gao, I have a question that I'm not sure is appropriate to ask, about the missions of your investigation team. Gao Changkong thought for a moment and smiled. You can ask. Some things the higher-ups have asked us to keep confidential, but most of the missions don't actually have much secrecy to them. Zhang Yi put down the wine glass in his hand. There are 6 investigation teams in the Jiangnan region, carrying out missions outside for long periods of time. Even this time, when the neon alien appeared in the region, they did not recall all the investigation teams. What kind of tasks do you perform? Are they even more important than eclipsing the moon? Gao Changkong thought for a moment and replied with a smile. It's hard to answer this question in a sentence. I can only say that each of our missions is different, varied, and strange. He pointed his finger at Bai Li Changqing. Take the Black Robe Squad as an example. They are mainly responsible for issues. If there is large-scale unrest in various cities, they will be responsible for suppressing it. And our Reincarnation Squad has recently been solving issues. Zhang Yi frowned. Issues? This is a bit philosophical. The beast of beasts. The beast of different beasts. Gao Changkong saw the mockery in Zhang Yi's eyes and explained with a smile. You should know that after the end of the world, what comes is the era of great mutation. Not only humans can mutate and evolve, but other creatures can as well. Zhang Yi nodded. Of course I know that. His Huahua and Xing Tian's subordinate demon dog, Lulu, are both mutated creatures. Gao Changkong said, however, there are fewer mutant species in urban areas, and there are very few that are too fierce. However, in the mountains and rivers, where the beasts gather, large-scale mutant groups may appear. It's like us humans. The more people there are, the higher the probability of mutants. Moreover, the more powerful the mutated individuals become. There are even some areas where mutant beasts have appeared. Gao Changkong's gaze grew serious. Take Biting Lake, where we are going this time. Many mutated beasts have gained intelligence, even comparable to that of humans. Even ordinary mutated jackals, tigers, and leopards are not comparable to human physical strength. The global catastrophe has almost returned us to the primitive era, and our advantage in weapons has been greatly weakened. This has allowed the beasts to rise. The 5 cities around Biting Lake have all been occupied by the beasts. And it took us, with the full support of Blizzard City, 3 months to take them back. Zhang Yi couldn't help but gasp. Isn't this a beast tide? But on second thought, it actually makes perfect sense. Humans have evolved over a long period of time, and they are actually no longer suited to nature. The sudden catastrophe has killed off most of the human population. On the contrary, the beasts, which are more adaptable to changes in the natural environment, have begun to rise. After all, most beasts are inherently stronger than humans in terms of physical strength. A slight mutation is enough to make them formidable opponents. Zhang Yi couldn't help but say, luckily, I live by the sea. The coastal waters are basically frozen over due to the low salt content of the seawater. And even if there are some mutated creatures, they won't be too powerful. I'm afraid that there are many powerful and terrifying mutants in the ocean. But they are creatures in the deep sea. They shouldn't come to the land to cause trouble. Zhang Yi asked curiously, so, the situation of the other investigation teams is the same? Gao Changkong smiled and said, they all have their own troubles. He didn't go into details, and Zhang Yi realized that this was a secret that could not be known to outsiders. After all, Zhang Yi was not yet a member of the Blizzard City staff, and some things had to be kept from him. The 3 of them drank for more than an hour before they dispersed. This was the first time Zhang Yi and Gao Changkong had met, and he felt quite good about Gao Changkong. He thought the man was quite interesting and not pretentious. However, they only spoke briefly and did not have an in-depth exchange. Zhang Yi called Zhu Zheng and mentioned his plan to go back to Tianhai City to meet up with his companions. Zhu Zheng laughed and said, that's good, but you have to go quickly and come back quickly. Because after the reincarnation team returns, we will have to launch the next round of combat operations immediately. We can't do without you. Zhang Yi rubbed his forehead and readily agreed. He then asked Bai Li Changqing to take him to the subway station and take the subway back to Tianhai City. As for the combat command center, after Zhu Zheng ended the call with Zhang Yi, he looked across the table with a calm expression. An old man with a Buddha-like face was sitting on the sofa, drinking tea at a leisurely pace. Zhu Zheng said, Mr. Deng, now that everyone is here, our plan can be implemented. I wonder if you have any questions. Deng Yuanbo put down the cup in his hand. He looked at Zhu Zheng with a smile. Has the candidate been decided? Zhu Zheng frowned slightly. Zhang Yi is a very good candidate. I asked him for his opinion and he is unwilling to take on the responsibility of the team leader. Zhu Zheng crossed his arms and placed them on his lap. His ability is very important to this operation, but I am more optimistic about his ability to block the opponent's prophetic ability. Not combat effectiveness. The captain's candidate can be replaced by someone else. In terms of command alone, Bai Li Changqing may be more suitable. Deng Yuanbo's smile grew even wider. But can Bai Li Changqing convince everyone of his strength? Zhu Zheng snorted lightly. Bai Li Changqing is at least a deputy captain-level combatant. Although there is a gap compared to the 6 captains, he is still below them. If Bai Li Changqing is not allowed to ascend, do you want to hand over all the command authority to Gao Changkong? Deng Yuanbo laughed. I know, you can't possibly give such a large amount of power to just one person. But Blizzard City can no longer afford to fail in this operation. If we fail again, you should know how serious the consequences. Zhu Zheng's gaze became deep. If he failed again at the hands of Eclipse Moon, he, the commander,